Okay. Okay. So we are sorry that, Nancy's friend that, from Pergamena couldn't join us. But, you know, uh, one thing that I love about these monthly meetings and when we, um, or try to bring you some new material or new binding or whatever, is that it kind of makes me go and look and research for it. So that's what I did a little bit about the vellum. And I couldn't, I worked with a different kind of vellum that Nancy was so enthusiastic about, and I couldn't understand, like she was saying, "Oh, this is so beautiful, and it's going to be so amazing." And I was like, "Okay, I have used it in books, make transparent envelopes, and in some other things, some cards." And so I could, understand what was going on. And I remember using it when I was in high school. We had the last 2 years of high school, we had a mandatory uh, geometric design, so we kind of had to copy forms and shapes with China ink and this special pen. And, it was for certain. We used like tilt desks in school. So by the last line, everything was smudged. And so that was my, what I remembered about vellum. And I was like, okay, I don't want to have these in books, because it's nothing, it's not good. So then, when I started researching it, and, now I understand Nancy's enthusiasm, and I'm very enthusiastic about it as well now. So the vellum that we are going to use on Aaron's class, so it's made of calf skin. So there's two kinds of vellums, one that can be made of fibers from plants, but this one, it's more refined, and it's made from calf skin. And, the material is flexible and lasts a long time. And, there's lots of, is used to be used for, very important documents like the US Constitution, I think, was was written on vellum, and all sorts of other, very important documents. And, some of them, Nancy will talk about it a little bit later. And so, that's, and the way also because we have to order it way in advance, as Aaron was saying, because the skins have to be treated in a certain way. They are stretched on a kind of a canvas, on a frame, and then they need to be scraped, and then they get wet, and then they scrape again, and then to make it more more flexible. And so okay, there's a question in the chat. So it's really, now I understand, and it's a very wonderful, wonderful material. And the other thing is that it lasts for many, many years, can last forever. And I think that's a good thing also. Let's see what I have here. I found about parchment of the sometimes it's the name sometimes can you can they call it parchment, parchment paper, but parchment, it's just parchment. But when it's added the word vellum, it's parchment that it's refined. So that's, I think, what I kind of got from my research. And besides having Nancy talk about some giving some examples of, where the vellum has been used. Um, we also have Jean Wallach, that she shared with us a wonderful book that she has, and that, was falling apart, but it had vellum, and then she shows also other, other books and other works that she where she used vellum. And I just see on the chat that Elizabeth Johnson has a book from 1749 that has vellum cover, so it does last a long time. So if you have it with you, we can highlight you, and you can share it also, because those books are really, really, really wonderful. So um, I have, I got some websites and links that I can send, we can send them to you when we send the PDF that Aaron's shared with us, and then we can post it on the website, but on the, with the videos, with recordings. But I'll make sure that I'll send those links to everyone that registered or signed up for the meeting. Okay, Elizabeth's camera is not working, but so we'll call on Jean to show us a wonderful book. And okay, Nancy, your turn.
Okay. That will be nice to have to see the books. So vellum, the way vellum came into my world is through calligraphy. I've spent many years studying calligraphy, and that was sort of the ultimate. When you worked on vellum, it was almost a graduation of sorts. It was reaching a certain level. And so that's how I was introduced to it. And I was involved with some long-term classes with Reggie Ezel. And we actually worked on preparing the vellum. We would get it somewhat prepared, but then we would even sand it finer. And some of you I know are calligraphers and have also had that experience. What motivated me talking about this is I wanted so many people to have the experience of working with the material, feeling it, touching it. It's just while it has its challenges, it also is just so magical in ways. Um, it some of the differences that I read about, Maria, I read that the shaving process for vellum is more difficult and time consuming than parchment. I don't know all the fine details of that, but maybe we'll be able to get an expert sometime to tell us. Vellum is creamy in color, and you see sometimes the veins in the skin. Parchment is whiter in color, and they say it's smoother surface than vellum. I think that depends sometimes on the preparation steps. I'm not completely sure. We're not experts, and we really welcome. Some of you may know more than we do as we're sharing some of these thoughts, but we just wanted to open up this whole topic just for exploration and interest and curiosity. The other way that I was exposed was with the calligraphy group, was the creation of the St. John's Bible. There was an abbey that commissioned a renowned calligrapher. His name is Donald Jackson, and they wanted him to produce a handwritten, hand-illustrated Bible. If you haven't heard of this, you might just get a great joy out of the creativity of this piece of work. I don't remember the measurements, but it's huge, a huge Bible. It's in 7 parts. Each page has been done by hand. It was a very long process where they had artists from Wales, also Minnesota, working together. It was a team, and they brought together the ancient techniques of calligraphy and illumination. It's a modern theological statement in ways. It lives at the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library, but also it does travel. And I wanted you all to know, I just learned that it's in New York right now. It is on display at St. Patrick's Cathedral. So those of you in our audience that are in New York can visit it there. Maria's going to put a link to that happening. What else did I have? Oh, what happened with the St. John's Bible too? Of course, there's always finances involved with such a major project, and people were sponsor. They had a whole sponsoring system, and then what they decided to do is create a heritage edition. And there's heritage editions throughout the country, and it's a replica, very carefully monitored, very specific. The paper was handmade, but it was approved by Donald Jackson. Tried to get it as close to vellum, but the actual Bible is total, every page is vellum. And it's really quite magical. So that's a little bit about how vellum came into my world. It lasts for thousands of years. It's those of you in the San Diego or even Los Angeles, well, anywhere in the Southern California area, there's a wonderful map museum in La Jolla. This gentleman had a hobby, and he turned his collection into a delightful museum. San Diego Book Arts, we used to use their museum for meetings when we were having in-person meetings. And they have a lot of vellum in that museum just because of the history of the maps and the fact that it can last up to, well, I've heard all kinds of quotes, but definitely 5,000 years. So it needs right conditions, and and it does have its its pieces, or its characteristics, I guess would be a better word. I was also going to share with you, I just sort of fell in love with one piece when I was looking at the pieces at the Guild of Bookworkers. So I'm going to try to hold it up for you to see. I truly just took it out of the box. But you can see that this isn't quite as, you can see the translucence, and you can see how it's more yellow, creamier yellow than, say, white. And I just fell in love with the, let's see if I can catch it on the table. Here's where I need some more hands. You can hear probably the kind of little bit of the texture, but it's truly, it's a magnificent material. And I just wanted, the excitement I had with Erin teaching the class is that people get a chance to be with this material. So and I'll share one other piece I couldn't pass by from they sold leather too. And they had this tie-dyed piece of leather. So those are my splurges at the conference. But we just wanted to invite you and just to just to be exposed to that if you hadn't, or maybe to stir some interest. Um,
Nancy,
we are,
what's the museum in La Jolla?
it's called, it's called museum. Huge museum. You'll find it. I haven't for a while because I used to be in touch with them a lot because we would rent the space for the meetings. But it's really remarkable. I don't think anything's happened to it. I know they did experience a flood, but they were going through all the repairs and the building structure things that they had to. Are you not finding it, Patsy?
No, so you were
You broke up. You broke your voice, kind of broke, so
Oh,
we didn't
it's the
understand it.
Athenaeum.
no, it's not connected with, it hasn't been connected with
Oh,
the Athenaeum to my knowledge. But
yeah.
maybe, I don't know if something's happened with it.
Do you
I
mind
think,
writing it on the chat, the name on the chat, so it's easier for us to understand, to see?
On a website, it says the La Jolla Map Museum is permanently closed as of August 31st, 2023.
oh, I'm embarrassed. Okay, I had no idea. I had no idea. That's too bad. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. In fact, I hadn't even thought of it till I was listening to Maria, and then it came up in my mind that, oh yes, they have many things there. So, but those are some of the the pieces that I have to share with you. But Jean's got some, I think, some wonderful books to show and share
Yes.
if she's ready.
Yeah.
And thank you for just being just helping us, Jean.
Oh my, it's such fun. You all do so much for us all. But when you were talking about vellum and in one of our uh, other classes and what you were doing, I mentioned that I had a scrapbook from the 1800s that's in horrible condition, which can really show you uh, all of the problems that people have with vellum, as beautiful as it is. This is a book from Italy. Let me see, there's the front. This is the back. You can see that the foredge is about 3 times as big as the spine because it popped, which is why there were always ties or clasps or something to hold a limp binding together. Aaron used um, a, a, a knot. An example of some of the knots that were used, this is made of parchment. Sort of a nail would be inserted in the front of the book, and a tongue would be placed in the back and coming around the front and tied into the book in this way, to hold the book so that it didn't spring like this. I thought you might be interested on the inside of the book. This has a board. Boards came into existence because of parchment on our books. Because of the spring, the boards would sometimes weight it down. If there were no boards, parchment books were stored on their side so that the weight kept them to some degree from spring. But boards were introduced, parchment was wrapped around them, and you can see in the corners how it was attached with so sorry for the condition of the book, but it's been kind of a learning tool for me to have something that's in such horrible condition. It's just full of somebody's scrapbook full of pictures of the Madonna and saints and so on. It had some religious history. Another use of a parchment or vellum. Oh, I thought you might like to see some of the different kinds. I have a sample book from Pergamena, which shows you these are all different kinds of goat that are available, calf, deer, and sheep. And I have a few examples from some projects that are leftover pieces. That one is sheep. It's some people consider it to be the best because it's soft, and it's used in a lot of documents. They believe it was used on the Magna Carta, for example, and the Dead Sea Scrolls were on sheep. The reason being that when you etched into it with your pen, the impression stayed, and so it became harder to forge or manipulate important documents. This one is deer. They're all called parchment. Vellum, as Marie said, is usually either sheep or calf. And stillborn animals make the best, according to most people who study it. Let me see. This one is goat, and let me see. Deer, goat, sheep, and I'm not sure. I didn't label this one, but they're all full of the veins and so on when you hold them up to light, as Nancy showed you. One of the things that they used the parchment papers for was to make threads to do the sewing on old books. And when I was taught how to do that, we started with a circle about 4 inches all around. And you cut around the circle in small pieces. This is all that I have left of that circle. But by twist, you wet the parchment and twist, 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 and twist until you get pieces of thread. Yeah, that particular circle did the stitches that are in this Ethiopian style book. The stitches are made of thread that was twisted that way. Let's see. We call it parchment because there was a big war between Egypt, who refused to send papyrus to a king and the king of Pergamus, and he wanted a library to rival the Library of Alexandria, and so he looked around his kingdom and said, "Okay, we've got sheep," and then they started making paper so that he could have his beautiful library. I read this, it's just haunting. A single sheep, and I was looking at Nancy's skin in that light. It yields no more than 2 pages for a folio. Folios are large single pages in a book. And it is said, quote, "A very large flock of sheep had to be slaughtered in order to obtain parchment for a single copy of book." Let's see. I guess that's about it. I wish I knew more, but it's a wonderful thing to share. I can't wait to take Erin's class and look forward to seeing a lot of you in it.
Jean, what do you use those sheets of parchment for?
I can show you an example. Well, I can show you 2 examples. One, when I'm doing just little Coptic journals, this
Okay,
piece,
fine.
this piece just puts it on the spine. But this is a little, also a Coptic binding. I love Coptic, but it's just a simple vellum cover. I
Okay.
don't use it on the sheets. Most of as Nancy said, most of the manuscripts that you'll see, the pages themselves were made of parchment. And in the really early ones, they used black ink for everything, but red ink for anything having to do with the gods, so that the parchment holds color beautifully. And when you see some of the old documents, they are so bright and vivid and hundreds of years old. I read somewhere, and I couldn't find my notation, but they have examples of parchment that are over 5,000 years old that hold up. And I think the average life of paper is about 350 years if it's made well.
How did you come across that album that you showed us in the beginning? And how long have you had it?
I love books, and but it was from a flea market. A woman who had worked at a university near me. I'm in Massachusetts. Collected books that a particular school was discarding, and she would sell them at the flea market. And that book was in that condition when I purchased it. Nobody wanted it because it's so bad. You can see where I tried to clean it here, and that's what it was like. But I was just so intrigued with it, and
Are you planning to restore it, Jean? Are you working on it, or have any
I
plans
don't
to work on
know.
it?
There's something really wonderful about
Being like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to be able to show people. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, it
Yeah.
and it's fun. It originally I was interested in it, of course, because of the parchment. Parchment was used for so many things. They put it on trunks. Um, I once again I don't remember where people originally thought it would be kind of waterproof, and it's the
Proof. Yeah.
opposite. It's a skin. It absorbs moisture. But that's one of the reasons why it's so beautiful with inks and colors. So,
Yeah.
uh, I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
Well,
great. Thank you for sharing
yeah.
all that.
We cannot thank
Sorry
you
for
enough.
just rattling off. I'm not good at this stuff like you guys.
No, no,
Are
no.
you
It
kidding?
was
I'm
so
not either. That's why Maria always talks.
well, that's not fair. But, no, I'm just kidding. Uh, no, it's just like I think, some of the things you said, I read about them, but you said them so much better than I did. So it's amazing. So we cannot thank you enough. Anybody else has worked with the vellum? I'm going to take myself out of the spotlight because um, anybody else has worked with vellum or no? You have to sign up for Aaron's class then. Because it's yeah, I'm jealous of those pieces that Nancy showed. Those are enormous, one of the things that Aaron has said to us was that you need to order the vellum in advance, um, and it's expensive. So it's I posted on the chat. Uh, John Neal's books also because they have so much stuff for calligraphy, right? And then so they also carried the pergamenous calfskin and vellum. So and I don't know, I couldn't compare the prices with the that with from Pergamena and them, but they were like a little piece was like kind of expensive. So
Pergamena
um,
sometimes has these big sales on
oh.
pieces that are they have holes in them, or that's where those sheets that I have are from, and I cut the
Yeah,
holes out
yeah.
uh,
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
just to
Uh,
make it more affordable.
and one of the things that I also came across was that, the word vellum, it's, comes from the word veau, that it's calf in French. So, yeah, so there's a lot of connections there. And I'm telling you, I learned so much about vellum and parchment and all of this, just, to be able to, pass the information along. And so that's, to me, that's one of you know, the wonderful things about these monthly meetings, because when I want to talk about something that I don't know about, it forces me to go and learn. So, and it's really good. And Jean, people are saying thank you for showing your work and your books and your knowledge with us. How much does the vellum run? I think that it was like a 3x5 piece was $9, and then 8.5 by 11, like the normal paper was like about, I'm not sure if it was $30 or $40. I don't know. Nancy, did you come across some of the prices?
I don't know, and I
Yeah,
don't remember for sure. I know for sure mine was over 100, that skin I showed you all.
yeah,
I
that's a
don't
good
know.
one. Yeah,
But also, too, I'm sure they have different categories, and that's partly why the class is expensive because of the cost of the materials. But often teachers order they can order with a wholesale account, so we always pass that on to our members. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
But
special.
it's, you know,
Not
it's, I think
something-
it's, yeah, I agree with you. Now I see that, you know, it's special and, you know, I think it's worth just getting a little piece to try actually some of that, you know, the string that Jean showed us, you know, I'm dying to do that.
I never knew.
So,
I so appreciate that. I never knew about that. That'll be fun to
Yeah.
try.
yeah, exactly.
Jean, when you take the parchment for lining the spine to
Mhm.
do a long stitch,
Yes,
does it cut easily?
yes,
It's,
it does. And if you have any trouble with it, sometimes if you just, I don't want to say dampen, because you really don't want to do that, but just spray a little bit onto a towel and place it on it just for a few minutes, and it softens it to the point where it's easier to cut.
okay.
Um, by way of that thread, I've also done the same thing with Lukta. And it's not strong, but it makes an interesting thread as well. It's fun to play with.
Jean, I think you have a question on the chat for you. Do you have to score the vellum before you fold it? Or it's easy to fold?
I have not scored it. It depends on the thickness, how easy or hard it is. And a lot of the let me see. On this book, the fold was very easy. You can see it just folds. But for most of it, you just kind of keep it a little bit of a curved wrap around the spine. This part is wood. It's not parchment on this. The other spine is parchment.
I think that
answer-
actually there's one of the difference between the vellum and the vellum from the calf skin and then the vellum from you know, the fiber ones that you know, because I remember you know, getting drawings from, you know, like the architects, and they kind of almost feel like they break, right, when you fold them. So, and you know, the skin ones, you know, the ones that come from calf or sheep or, you know, all the other animals, you know, it's like a leather almost, right? So it kind of folds without breaking. So I think
This
that's
is a piece, and I'll just fold it. I mean, like I'm working against the grain here, but I would want to work with the grain. One is skin side and one is the inside, where they you know, the
brush
tanning
and
and stuff on in Ethiopia, for example, is done by taking the skin and they still do it in parts of Ethiopia now, put it into a stream, weighted down with rocks, and that does a little bit of tanning on the skin. But on this way, and I'll just fold it.
Yeah.
And you can see it, it's not that difficult to fold.
yeah.
I can, you know, press it a little bit more, but anyway.
That's great. Yeah. And, you know, by the way, the Pergamino also, you know, is a tanner. So they also have other kinds of leathers. And, you know, so if you are interested in, you know, working with the leathers further on, and I think they are wonderful, you know, from what you know, I saw on the website, they look like really experts, and they have like really good things. So thank you, Nancy, for introducing them to us.
Well, and we're exploring with some teachers about teaching leather online. So for some of you that are interested in that, that's a little heads up that all of this is kind of leading to, and there's a few teachers that are interested. So we're trying to figure out the very best way to create as much success as possible so that you can, if you don't have other opportunities, you can have this. So thank you.
Melanie says that she made a book with Vellum with Karen Enman, and I think it was a couple of years ago, I think, that I saw that class, and I'm not quite sure if it's the same thing that Aaron is teaching for us, but I think it was very similar. But the nice thing about it is like, so you take the same binding with different teachers, but it's of course they have different styles of teaching, and so even when you take the same binding over and over again, you always learn something. So, so Melanie, maybe you want to try Aaron's, but it's. I'm sure it's going to be a great class, so I can't wait for it. So, okay, let me put you in gallery. Anything else? Does anybody has any other questions for Nancy or for me or for Jean or Patsy? Oh, Nancy, you are
Maria,
muted.
I got an email from Kit. I forwarded it to you, but it was during the meeting. So she's ready to come in February and do an
Oh, that's
activity.
right.
So
Yeah, that's the other thing I forgot to say in the beginning that next month will be Kit Davis is going to be with us again, and she always has those fun projects to share with us. So and those classes look a lot of fun. So if I know that some of you here took some of those classes before, and they are really fun, fun projects, quick, and you can do over and over again with different papers and all sorts of different materials. So it's great. I think I'm going to